I'd like to give you 10 tips now, my sort of top 10 tips for public speaking that I'd like you to keep in mind, in addition to those few you've already seen on a previous video. First, these are mostly about content. The first thing is to know both your subject and your speech inside out. You really have to do your homework, and after you've done your homework and organized your information and thought of the terms you want to use in the sequence in which you want to use them, you have to really practice and go over what you're going to say many times. The second tip is to know two other things. Know your audience and your environment. You have to know the people to whom you're speaking. If I were going to give a really controversial speech to people that I know are going to resist my ideas, I'm going to have to approach it very differently than if I'm going in front of a friendly fire audience, so to speak, people that are more in line with my background or my beliefs. You have to know the environment as well. That's the second part of the second tip here. Know your environment. You need to know, for instance, if there will be a computer and a big screen in the room you're presenting. If you have a PowerPoint and then find out once you get there that there's no technology to accommodate your presentation, then you're in trouble. So those are the top two. Third is keep an open mind. There will probably be a question and answer period in your live speeches when you give those through your life. And when someone off the cuff throws at you a quote or an idea or a question or a demand that challenges you, challenges the position you've taken, you need to stay cool and calm and try and imagine what that person is thinking and what is the most logical and sensitive response from your point of view. You don't have to cave on your view, but you have to keep your mind open so that you can communicate effectively. Next, I'd like you to remember the fourth tip, which is to imagine yourself doing well when you're presenting. That's very important. The power of the imagination has been proven over and over and over in study after study, even in culture after culture. People use their minds, they use their imaginations, they use meditation also as a powerful tool for practicing difficult skills and for creating a mental environment that increases the likelihood of success. Because if you imagine yourself performing in great detail, you see the way you want to look, the way you want to sound, the way you want to feel that connection with the audience, and do that repeatedly every day for days or weeks before you have a presentation. You will have primed the pump for your own success. Number 5 is don't apologize. Things will go wrong. They just do. That's Murphy's Law, right? So if you knock your water glass over when you get to the podium, or something unexpected happens, or the technology suddenly has a mind of its own, you don't want to lose your cool. You want to keep going, and you don't need to apologize. In fact, audiences respect you more if you don't apologize. Occasionally you may find it respectful to give a very, very brief explanation if the whole situation is out of your control. For instance, the microphone just isn't working at all. You'll have to explain that before you speak. But you don't really want to apologize for anything, because that compromises your integrity and your influence as a speaker. 6th is respect. Please always show great respect for your audience. You have to really care that you're communicating with them, that they will hear what you're saying. And you can't do that until you respect that they are people with their own backgrounds and their own opinions and their own experiences that, in a way, color the way they hear your message also. So if you respect that, if you avoid what's called ethnocentrism, that idea that everyone should be like me and everyone should believe what I believe, and, instead, take a breath. Tell yourself you can be fine and humble at the same time. I certainly know, after many years of teaching, that I can learn as much from my students as they can learn from me. So I think that attitude is very, very helpful to a speaker. 7th is time yourself. Watch your time. If you are given 2 to 4 minutes for a speech and you run to 6 minutes, you know what? That's 50% over, right? That's 50% over the minimum number, and it's 25%, I think, over the maximum, right? So if everyone does that in a speaking situation, a conference or a classroom, then you have thrown the entire schedule for that event off. It is very annoying to the other people in the room to know that you are hogging the time, so please time yourselves. You have a great advantage in the online speech class because you can do this over and over and over again and just upload your best video. It'll assure that you're doing practice, that you're watching yourself, that you're timing yourself, and that you're presenting your best work. So watch your time. 8, believe. That's my next tip. You've already imagined earlier, right? You've meditated or imagined yourself in the speaking situation. We're imagining a real live situation now, but if you're nervous in front of cameras, it could be the webcam also, right? But you want to imagine success when you're in the shower, when you're taking a walk, when you don't have a lot of mental demands on yourself. Run that mental movie, and that will help lead you to believing that you can do the very, very best possible job. 9 is pay attention to your audience. Don't blank them out. If you are speaking to a live audience, they are always giving you body language feedback, right? They are sitting there like, right? Or they're going, wow, and they're really engaging with you, right? There's a big difference, and there are many other feedback gestures that you could observe, I'm sure, and interpret for yourself. But be sure you pay attention to feedback. That can be verbal feedback, it can be the body language feedback, it can be even just the eye contact with some people in your audience. You can sometimes see their eyes glaze over when you've either given too much information at once or just started rambling and really boring them. So pay attention to your feedback. 10, my top 10, number 10, learn from your mistakes. We all make them. Why not make them part of your own repertoire, so that if you know that something went wrong in your timing, that you know that's something to keep working on, and you determine for yourself to time yourself more before you give your next presentation. Or if you lost your voice in the middle, that sometimes happens to me because of allergies, right? Keep a water bottle beside you, right? Or a glass of water. And it's perfectly correct and to be encouraged to say, excuse me, or say nothing, and just pause, take a sip, and go on. Whatever happens, I'm sure if you adopt these 10 tips and keep practicing, knowing your subject, knowing your speech, knowing your audience, knowing your environment, keeping an open mind, imagining yourself doing the best job you've ever done, not apologizing, showing respect for your audience, timing your presentation, believing that you can do it and that your message is important, paying attention to those feedback cues you get from the live audience, and learning from your mistakes, that you can become a successful public speaker.